I was telling my wife that I'll be the most hated in this seminar because of the topic. The biggest problem in marriage is me. Say that to yourself. Are we still friends? Oh, thank you. And I really mean so. I really mean so. When we counsel youth on choosing a partner, they like to list their expectation of the wife to be, the husband to be. I want her to have an American accent. I want her to have a good job. I want her to be God-fearing. I want her to love my relatives, the in-laws. If my in-laws a problem here? No, I don't think it is. And then I say to them, what if you marry and then those expectations are not met? You see, that is based on her, him. And when they do not meet your expectation, there is a problem. But imagine if you were to say, what will be my role when I get married? I will love her, I will work for her, I will bring the bread at home, I will do this, do that. And when you get to marry, there will be no surprises, unless you were talking without thinking. Because those you committed to yourself. So, the other aspect of expectation is that you can't change the other person. You cannot. And oftentimes, the more we expect them to do things for us, the more they resist. It really doesn't work. Even when we are counseling couples, they come with the baggage of, she doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, he doesn't, everything is wrong except me. And if people continue that way, and sometimes we are told things by couples that say, I love him, I love her, and then you wonder, should I really be hearing this? The person who is supposed to love this other the most is the person who says the worst thing about the other person. And they still think the marriage will work. And however much you counsel these people, unless they turn around and begin to say, what can I do to save this marriage? The marriage is going down the drain. When all the people have in mind is you are not doing that. You are the cause of that. You. And in the morning I say, actually God doesn't treat us that way. The moment you accept Jesus, He doesn't look at how you are, who you are. The moment you accept Jesus, that very moment you have justification. You have a title for heaven. And what He works on you after He has accepted you is the process of sanctification, where you work together with Christ to be fitted for heaven. That is sanctification. Why don't we apply that in marriage? That me, what is it I have done to contribute to this misunderstanding. And then it will be easier to remedy and build our marriage. One psychologist by the name of John Powell said this, that there is one big problem in any relationship, which if it's sorted out, everything else will fall in place. And that is a genuine and joyful self-acceptance. So it all starts with me. And it starts with me by accepting myself. He continues and says, it is good to be me. I am very happy to be me. It has to start from there. Why? Because the world today has a pandemic and an epidemic of low self-esteem. And it's very difficult to love somebody with low self-esteem. So, and we see that the low self-esteem started right at the fall. People running and hiding, thinking they are naked. Before they were not naked, yet they were naked. But now they run and cocoon themselves. Something is wrong with me. And that is the cause of low self-esteem. I am not as useful. I am not this or that or that. So unless we fix that, we cannot be lovable. We cannot be lovable. But I will come back to the low self-esteem. When people have strong self-esteem, even if the partner is the problem, you can still make the marriage work. Even if the other partner is a problem, if you have fixed yourself, if you have developed good self-esteem, the marriage will still work. Why am I saying that? It's biblical. Look at the story of Hosea and Gomer. And some people think that that is a make-believe story. But the Bible doesn't have make-believe stories unless where Jesus says, and then I tell you a parable. Then that's a make-believe. But even the parables are made to be realistic examples of life. So the book of Hosea is not fiction. It's real. And in Hosea chapter 1, verse 2, God says to the prophet, go take unto thee a wife of wardle and children of wardles. And that's why I say to young people, don't work on expectation. Work on compatibility. Will I be compatible with this one? Not the expectations. Now look here. God is telling Hosea, go and marry a whore. Is that an expectation? If you ask a young person what kind of a wife, that will be the last thing they will say. But God is telling Hosea, go, take a wife from the children of the warders. And for the land has committed a great wardle. So God wanted to also make Hosea a lesson book. Maybe you also a lesson book to the neighbor. That this guy can keep up with hardened laws. Maybe you are one of them. So God can use us anyhow from any environment. And the Bible says in verse 3, so he went and took Gomer, a girl who was a whore herself. Now the book of Hosea is very interesting. In the old times, names you give to children had a specific meaning of what is happening around. So we can easily tell what happened to that marriage from the names of the children who were given. In verse 4 of chapter 1, we are told that Gomer bore a son, and the name was Jezreel. And Jezreel means struggle, striving. So immediately after marriage, there was a struggle in the home. There was no understanding of one another. There was no peace in the home. But the marriage went on. And then in verse 6, Gomer bears a daughter, and the name is Loruhamah. Loruhamah means not loved. There is no love in the home. Not loved. And some commentators say not loved could also mean not my child. And therefore I have no love for that child. But if that was guesswork, the third child was clear. In verse 9, Lo-Ami. Lo-Ami means not my child. So clearly, the third child was not Hosea. They only had 3 children. But then we get how the story goes on what God says to Hosea to write. He says that write and say to your brothers, Ami Ruhamah, meaning that not my wife. In other words, the marriage reached a divorce. Hosea and Gomer could not stay together again. There was a divorce. And Gomer, as you read chapter 2, went out to do open harlotry in highways, in all the bed and breakfast, and everywhere. Then God says, if Hosea had low self-esteem, by now he would have committed suicide. Do you have a lot of suicide in Botswana? You know, in Namibia, quite a lot of them. A boyfriend will normally go and shoot the girl and then come and shoot himself. Close the case. It happens again and again. So the marriage was now almost totally finished. Then in Hosea chapter 3 verse 1, God says, go yet, Hosea. Love a woman beloved of her boyfriends and bring her back home. How many of us will do that? Go, bring her. She has been in all the bed and breakfast of Gaborone. Every truck driver knows that. But you go and get her. What kind of a character you should have? A madman? But think about it a bit. Much of the anger that we normally display is usually what we say, how can she do it to me? And when you begin to say, how can she do it to me? That is selfishness. Love ought to say that, what can I do to her to save her? When you read 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verse 8, it says love never fails. And when your wife has been out in open shame, it requires a real strong personality to say that she's still my wife. And so God says, go, get her, and bring her back home. And then, interestingly, in Hosea chapter 3, verse 3, after he has brought her back home, after he had borne with her with all her weaknesses. Then Hosea says, thou shalt be my wife for many days. In other words, Gomer now settled and the marriage worked. So, if your wife shouted at you and you divorce, the problem is what? Hosea will come and tell you the problem is you. If wife, your husband went out and you divorced, Hosea will come and tell you the problem is you. Because my wife went out openly, but I still loved her and brought her, and the marriage worked. Despite the pain and hurt in his heart, he went and searched for her. He did not end until he found her on sale in an open market. And he paid his own money to buy back the harlot wife. Husbands. You know, husbands, in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 22, it says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Sometimes we read that on the surface. But what happened when Christ loved the church? This church went to play harlotry, open in the streets. We denied God. Israel was in idolatry, denying God completely. But like Hosea, Christ went and still died for this church that had behaved in open shame. And so after Christ had died for this church, he says, husbands, love your wives as I love the church. Now I'm not promoting adultery, but that statement that is given, it means even in adultery, go ahead and love your wife and bring her back home. But friends, you cannot do that if you have low self-esteem. Low self-esteem will tell you she can't do this to her. She's playing with you. What will other men think about me? Will I be able to be in the company of other men and be able to stand and say something and they will listen? But all those questions, you know, are questions of a person of low self-esteem. What will others think about me? So the area we need to work on is the area of self-esteem. Now, a low self-esteem is actually a spiritual problem. In Mind, Character, and Personality, page 38, it says that it's Satan. In whatever situation, it's Satan who works to discourage the soul in whatever situation we face. Now, how does the world teach us to overcome self-esteem? The world teaches us that in order to improve your self-worth, your self-esteem, beauty should encourage self-esteem. So even our young children, while they're still very young, you tell them you are very beautiful. We are actually creating a stage for their esteem to be crushed. Because you, the father, will tell her she's beautiful. She will go there in the streets and they will tell her, I've never seen an ugly person like you. Will they be able to stand? So beauty cannot be used as a means to encourage self-esteem. The world will tell you, if you have intelligence, you have strong personal self-worth intelligence. Now there is a difference between intelligence and wisdom. And I will suggest to you that actually intelligent people are the ones who have destroyed this world. That the foolish person has no problem. But the intelligent people who are squandering millions, laundering millions across the world. Hitler was a very intelligent person. He caused a lot of problems in this world. So the issue is not whether you are intelligent or not. I've seen guys who are imbecile in our village. They have not been harmful to anybody. You know when he comes out, that one, I might have a problem. You pass that way. Not a problem. But the problem are the intelligent people in this world. And they are praised for their intelligence. Yet they are the ones destroying the world. Intelligence without wisdom is the greatest thing to fear in this world. Now we are told in this world that wealth will improve your happiness and self-esteem. But if you love money, you are a slave in this world until you die. Bill Gates is the richest man in the world. But he's chasing money more than me, who is very poor. He doesn't sleep. His own wife says he's just working, looking for more money. Even these supporting COVID and vaccinations, it's all totaled in a lot of mysteries. We don't know what is going underground. But he was 130 billion worth before COVID came in. And he is not satisfied with that money. They're scheming underneath. I don't know if that is conspiracy theory, but a lot has been written about these things that were questioned. And now his wealth is moving towards probably 200 billion worth because of the vaccinations and the investments in COVID medicine. Even that is not satisfied. Guys, but do you know how much 200 billion is? It can run the government of Botswana and everybody in Botswana for the next 20 years. Pay the president, the ministers, and everybody in Botswana. But he's not satisfied. He's still not sleeping. He wants more money. You know, so wealth, we are being cheated. That when you get wealth, then you will be satisfied. It's not true. Accomplishment. You get many Olympic medals. You win the World Cup and everything. Then your self-worth will grow up. All those are lies. It is a scheme for building self-worth which does not stand on anything. But God gives us a way to build self-worth. And before I go into that, I want us to do an exercise. Some psychologists have worked out and found out, they realized that not the most intelligent people are becoming successful and happy in life. And actually, even in school, I left a lot of very intelligent guys behind. And some of them are drunkards now. Some of them didn't live long. They just died because they were living lives that are risky lives. Intelligent guys. So researchers began to find out, and they found out that actually what makes human beings successful, it's not intelligence, the intelligence portion, but it's what they call emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence. Now, emotional intelligence has 5 parts. One of it is self-worth. Self-worth. How do you think of yourself? And the Bible actually supports that. Christ said, love your neighbor as, meaning if you don't love yourself, you will not love the neighbor. So you must have developed a good self-worth, self-respect. And it's only then that you can love the neighbor. The next element of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, which actually is part of self-worth. Self-awareness is the ability to say that my skills can take me this far and not far. So you don't just go and do things that you are not able to do just because you want to show people you can do this one. You know, even in the workplaces, there are some people who will never say no to any work given to them. As a result, they end up being frustrated. They are taking work that they are not able to do. Those are people who don't have a healthy sense of self-awareness. A person with a good sense of self-awareness is able to say that I cannot do this one, but I can do this one. I will not be able to do this. I'm not gifted in this one. They can say without fear, without feeling shy, their limitations. But oftentimes, we want to hide our limitations. You want to show that you can speak better English than anybody. You start saying, oh, when I was in the United States of America, you have never been there. You want to impress others that you can speak well, and you have been to the US. That's a very poor sense of self-awareness. You need to tell others clearly your capabilities and where your capabilities end, and where you can respect others who have better capability in that area where you are not gifted. And then the third element of emotional intelligence is motivation. Motivation. The ability to push yourself even beyond limits. You know, I always say that maybe we Seventh-day Adventists are not keepers of the fourth commandment. Maybe the Seventh-day Adventists are not keepers of the fourth commandment. You know what the fourth commandment says? Keep the Sabbath day holy. But does it tell you there? 6 days shall thou labor. Now compare the Chinese and the Seventh-day Adventists. Which ones are taking that commandment more seriously? 6 days labor. Labor is hard work. The Bible is not saying working, it's saying labor. Labor is hard work. 6 days labor. So the Chinese labor 6 days. And right now they're becoming the wealthiest nation in the world because they are following the fourth commandment. 6 days. They might have a problem with the seventh day, but at least 6 days. They're working. So, work hard as a child of God. Push the limits. What you are able to do, Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10, whatever you are able to do, do it with all your mind. That's what the Bible says. So, work hard. Motivation is one of the emotional quotient. Emotional intelligence. And then the fourth one is empathy. The ability to put yourself in the position of others. And this is very important in marriage. And the last one is social skills. Now, I want us to do an exercise. I don't know where my friend Richard is. We have workbooks. There are so many exercises, there are about 10. We will do only one on emotional intelligence. And I would want to see how you score in all these 5 areas. There is a part, exercise number 6, which says emotional intelligence. I give you 10 minutes to work on that. We have other copies here, and my wife will distribute them quickly. Score 5 is the highest on the better part of the question. I can endure a difficult situation without many complaints. Number 2, if there is a challenge, you tackle it, you don't cry, complain, or whatever, fine. If you are like the Israelites walking through the desert, murmuring and complaining, every little thing, then you put 1. Just be honest to yourself, because that's when you will be able to know areas where you need to improve. My 2 minutes are gone. So after 10 minutes we will close whether you're done or not. I think the problem will come when it comes to adding numbers. We are going to grade 5 mathematics. Let me hear your sum from the first 10 questions. And then those 10 questions you multiply by 5. What is your score? How many got above 50? The first 10 questions, 1 to 10, at the end of the exercise, it says question 1 to 10. Multiply by 2, sorry, not 5. Multiply by 2. How many got above 50? Above 50. Yes. Thank you, thank you. How many are below 50? Yes, that will be percent. If you are below 50, then there is a slight problem in your self-esteem. So you need to work and improve your self-esteem. Desire of Ages, page 6:8, it says, the Lord is disappointed when his people place a low estimate upon themselves, and proceeds to give us a solution and says that God wanted them, those who think they have low self-esteem, he would not have sent his son on such an expensive errand to redeem them. 2 things that will help us to overcome self-esteem. When we think of creation, we are made in the image of God. Now, when I was reading the Spirit of Prophecy on this aspect, the details of it, okay, angels have some element of resemblance with God, but they have not been made in the image of God. Angels do not have procreative power. And the Spirit of Prophecy says actually, God's plan was to give us, mankind in his image, some creative power in the procreation, so that we should multiply and repopulate heaven that has been left vacant by Satan and his rebellious angels. That was God's initial plan, and it will still be fulfilled, of creating man and giving him the procreative power. So mankind has been given privileges higher than what angels have been given. So if you understand that, why would you have a low self-esteem? The next aspect we need to understand is the concept of redemption. It cost the life of one who was equal to God. The Bible says he thought it not robbery to be equal to God. Ephesians chapter 2 verse 6 onwards. So one who was equal to God died for you. And the spirit of prophecy says that even if you were the only sinner around, Christ still would have given his life for you. That should help us build our self-worth, our low self-esteem. We are created with a higher purpose by God. The second part, which is question 21 up to 40, if you multiply those by 2, you will get a score from that one. And that score will tell you to what extent are you self-aware, your strength, and where you will need help. And this is important. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. But you can only run to Christ when you understand where you are lacking. Paul says, most assuredly, I rejoice in my weaknesses, because through weaknesses I'm made strong. So that is a person who has a very strong sense of self-awareness. Where they are weak, they run to Christ and they are made strong. The third element is empathy. To what extent are you empathetic to one another? 1 John chapter 4, verse 8, it says that if we say we love God, but we don't love the neighbor, we are like liars, and the truth are not in us. So that measures to what extent you are empathetic to the other. And if your score is lower than 50, it means you need to do some work on that. And then the third part is from question 41
31.
up to
40.
No, that's the
31 to 40.
the fourth there.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
you say empathy, that's right.
Motivation.
Yes. It's empathy. The third one. Now it's motivation. From question 31 up to 40. You know, motivation requires self-control. And self-control, we lost it in Eden when Adam gave in to temptation. So, lack of motivation is also equal to lack of self-control. It's also equal to intemperance. Do you know that demons have ranks? Jesus says about a man who is possessed by demons, he says that if you pray, the wicked demons get out, but if you don't do anything, you just stay like that, then these wicked demons will go and invite other 7 demons. What kind of demons? More worse. What does that tell you? Demons have ranks. There are some, they were thrown in heaven with their powers. So they have ranks. You will find some localities have more problems than other localities. Maybe the demon given to control that area is more fierce than a demon in another area. Maybe the demons that are given to Africans are stronger than the demons that are given to the Western countries. I don't know. But then the spirit of prophecy says this: the demon of intemperance is the strongest of all the demons. So Satan is there. The next powerful demon is the demon of intemperance. And then I said, now I understand why Adventists are struggling with the issue of eating meat. Because the demon that controls them is the strongest. So if we need to have motivation to be able to do with determination what we have aimed to do, we need to break the demon of intemperance. And we need to come very close to Jesus. When we understand that intemperance will be the greatest problem. And the last part is social skills. Social skills, that skill will be needed when we evangelize. People with social skills will easily invite others in our evangelistic efforts. My wife is very good at that. She just attracts people in numbers. When there is an evangelistic campaign, she will come with 6 people. So easily. She does it so easily. Sometimes when I'm standing with her, talking something, she just changes the topic. And already 5 people say, oh, you have a campaign tonight? We are coming. She has that gift. Now, if you score below 50, you are like me. You don't have that gift. Try to see how you can improve that. So by doing this exercise, we see areas where we are lacking and where we will need to put more effort in order that we can be successful in marriage. Particularly in marriage, these 5 areas are needed, but also in our spiritual journey.